Call the meeting to order. I will proceed with roll call to establish a quorum. Ms. Adair. Mr. Macias. Mr. Flores. Mr. Salyer. Ms. Williams. Mr. Salinas here. Dr. Mackey.
Present. We have Mr. Elizondo, Dr. Black, Mr. Christopher, Ms. Robinson, you're present.
Thank you. I need to read our introduction that we have to do before every board meeting. This regular meeting of the Judson Board of Trustees is hereby called to order at 7:10. I am very pleased that you have taken time to join us this evening. As the Judson Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals and policies and oversee the management of the district. We are responsible for approving budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and to listen to reports from the superintendent. We are not here to make administrative or management decisions pertaining to the daily operation of the district. This is the responsibility of the superintendent. In compliance with state government code on open meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. This is a meeting in public, not a meeting of the public. As our guests, you are welcome to observe and listen. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile phones and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that these proceedings are recorded accurately, I may have to ask for order periodically should I notice that disruptions are interfering with our recording capabilities. Once again, we, the board, and Dr. Mackey extend to each of you a sincere welcome. Thank you for your interest in the Judson ISD board meeting. Do we have any recognitions? Okay, no recognitions. Do we have any citizens to be heard, Ms. Perez? No citizens to be heard. Okay, any elected officials? Thank you. Item 4, I'm sorry? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Oh, let's go ahead and do the pledge. Oh, let's do a prayer by Dr. Mackey.
Father in heaven, we thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to meet tonight to serve the kids of Judson Independent School District. We thank you for helping our arms troop over there, providing them and keeping them out of harm's way. Lord, we thank you for all of the wonderful things that you're doing for us and giving us and making us a better place at Judson. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Williams will lead us into the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas.
One Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you. Members of the board, I will do the consideration of consent items. I will read each item. If you want to pull the item, make sure and let us know. A, consider and take action regarding approval of board minutes for the regular board meeting held April 17, 2014. B, consider and take action regarding approval of monthly financial information as of May 31st, 2014. C, consider and take action regarding approval expenditures equal to or greater than $50,000. D, consider and take action regarding approval of budget transfers across functions. E, consider and take action regarding approval of request for proposal 14-16 for mathematics intervention software. F, consider and take action regarding approval of request for proposals 1423 for campus leadership mentoring. G, consider and take action regarding approval of request for proposal 14-28 for school bus advertising services. H, consider and take action regarding approval of request for competitive Seal Proposals 1427, Education Resource Center, Uninterruptible Power Supply System, and a related budget amendment to the General Operating Fund. I, consider and take action regarding approval of a resolution to declare real property as surplus, 2 portable buildings located in the Converse Yard. J, consider and take action regarding approval of amendment to escrow agreement for school site near Retama Parkway. K, co- K, consider and take action regarding approval of 2014-2015 secondary student fees. L, consider and take action regarding approval of policy updates 99 affecting local policies, second reading. See attached list, which we have. Number 1, BBD local board internal organization attorney. Two, BP local administrative regulations. 3, CK local safety program risk management. 4, DIA local employee welfare freedom from discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. 5, EHDC local alternative methods for earning credit by examination without prior instruction. 6, FB local equal educational opportunity. 7, FFH local student welfare freedom and from discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. We have a motion by Ms. Williams, second by Mr. Flores. We are voting on A, C, D, E, G, H, I, J, K, L, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, except L1, and item B and item F. We're not voting on those. Okay? All those in favor of the motion signifying by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed likewise, motion carries. Consideration consent items B, consider and take action regarding approval of monthly financial information as of May 31st, 2014. Motion by Ms. Adair. Second by Mr. Flores. Ms. Adair.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to get a clarification on page 21. The revenue on that page under Title I is $242,302.65, and the expenditures for that month was $290,979.42. Can you help me with that?
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. Title I is a federal program. It's a reimbursement program. So we have to expend the funds first and then ask for reimbursement. So we always ask for the draws right after our monthly payroll, which is around the 15th of the month. So if there are any expenditures that were incurred after that time, then we don't receive those reimbursements until the following month. So sometimes we will have a situation where we're having more expenditures in that month than we're getting revenue, and then the following month we'll receive the revenue. Yes, it will.
F. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion signifying by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed likewise. Motion carries. F. Consider and take possible action regarding approval request for proposal 14-23 for campus leadership mentoring. Motion by Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Adair. Mr. Macias.
Yes, I just wanted just additional information about this effort. This is page 49, and I guess what I'm just trying to figure out for one is this mentoring program, is it similar to the leadership program that we had last year, the Empowering Teachers program?
No.
It's not at all? What's the difference with them, if you don't
Okay.
mind going that?
Empowering teachers is totally different from what we did. That totally involved teachers. This involved a mentoring programs for the not only the leadership, but the teachers, and provide all the staff development on those campuses that are performing below par.
Okay, so,
And it's usually state mandated when it gets below a certain level, but we at that level, we don't know if it's going to be state mandated or not, so I want to go ahead and provide services because we need to improve our academic level at the schools.
now, is this coming out of this year's budget or next year's?
Next year's budget.
So it'll be, and we've discussed the item, I guess, in our budget as a line item already?
It's part of the, it comes out of part of a budget, yes.
What budget?
224, is it title and comp ed, Ms. Roddy? What is it? What it comes out of? Yes, the one that we're doing for the middle schools. Title I.
So it's Title I dollars. And I know that we have several individuals with Title I. So what budget in particular? I guess I'm looking like at Ms. Robinson or Ms. Barra.
It's not in there. It's not part of it.
It's just
all by
Title
itself.
I by
Yeah.
itself, so it's not
It's
under.
by itself, and as you know, that Title I money, 30% of it has to go to district level, so it's not a campus level stuff. We have to allocate 30% of that budget. So that's part of what we're doing with some of that.
I wasn't aware of that, so I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that 30% of it.
Yeah, it's not a campus level stuff. It has to be district level.
So 30% of all title?
All title is
Budget.
district level, yes.
And so what is our overall budget, just out of curiosity, 30%?
It's-
Because I'm looking at
It's about $4 million, the total budget.
4 million. So just help me
It
understand this
says,
a little bit.
I even bought the law on it, right here.
Okay.
Amounts that are reserved by local education are not included in determination of campus allocation, even though some of the activities may occur on the Pacific campus. The funds that are reserved to do not become part of the campus budget. It's the total reserve exceeds 30% of the entitlement to we contact local education. If we exceed, they're gonna contact us 30% right here.
So this money isn't actually even coming out of our maintenance and operation, it's
No,
coming out of that
no,
title bucket?
No, it's that portion that we have to reserve for over here.
And because you mentioned the 30%, what does that come out to out of the 4 million? I mean, so I assume you're gonna spend additional dollars to go forward.
Yes,
30% of that 4 million, I can calculate so
yeah.
somewhat in my head.
It's like $1.2 million.
Okay.
That's gonna be for our science specialists, math specialists, language, any kind of stuff that we supplement to do. We can't supplant, we have to supplement. So we have to utilize that for that. There's a lot of staff over here that helps the campuses, yes.
Okay, and I get a great explanation to that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I guess my last question would be, I do notice, I think I did, the timeline. Is there a commitment here that we're saying? Is it for 1 year only?
1 year only.
Because I guess I'm looking at this item.
It's for 1 year only.
It is for 1 year.
Mhm.
Okay. Got it. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed likewise. Motion carries. Item L1, BBD, local board, internal organization, attorney. Motion by Mr. Sellier, second by Mr. Flores. Mr. Sellier.
Okay. The attorneys work for the board, not the board president or the superintendent, and I have the right to call the attorney anytime I want to. That needs to be changed.
Mr. Sellier, I thought we had fixed that.
It's not fixed.
I know, that's what I was saying. Didn't you do something
Yeah.
the last time, Commissioner?
Well, we talked about it. I don't know what we actually quoted, but we talked. Huh? And the other thing, the other part of it is the second part, payment of legal fees up to $5,000 may be paid upon recommendation of the director of special ed and approval of superintendent. If we're paying out plaintiff fees, I want to know about it. So, motion to table.
Okay.
Okay, motion, we have a motion to table. We have, and we also have a second, I believe. Ms. Ada. Okay, let's go ahead and vote on the motion to table. All those in favor of the motion to table signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Likewise, thank you. Motion to table was passed. Thank you, sir. Okay, discussion, consideration of action items. 5A, consider and take possible action regarding approval of CFC local accounting audit, second reading. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Macias. Second by Ms. Adair. Mr. Macias, I think that was you. Or was that Dr. Mackey? I'm sorry. I'm sorry? 122? Oh, that was the policy, that was the second reading, right? Yeah.
I have no additional comments.
I have a comment.
Okay, sir. Mr.
On,
Flores?
Page 124,
Yes, sir.
under authority, third paragraph, the board shall direct areas to be audited. I want to say the board by a vote. You know, it can't just be a board member saying, you know. And really,
Is that the third little paragraph?
right.
By board member majority vote.
Yeah, I'd like to be worded that way, where it says by majority vote of the board. And
You wanna
really,
amend-
I kind of have a problem with this whole thing, with that part of it, because if I understand audit departments, internal audits, and I've dealt with a lot of them in my career, they would usually set the schedule of what they're going to audit, and then, you know, and then they would just set it, you know, we're going to do this here, and this here. I don't see where the board needs to be directing them to the areas. You know, that's, and I'd like Mr. Elizondo to kick in what his thoughts on that are. You know, you've been involved with internal auditors before. Is that, would you say that's correct?
The ones that I reviewed in the past, that's exactly what happens. Typically, the internal auditor prepares an audit plan for the entire year, presents it to the board, and then the board will authorize or not, or have discussion with them about what they think about the plan. And it encompasses all types of things within the school district.
Yeah, see, that's, you know, that's where I'm having a problem with this. I'd like it to be changed to have, to be worded that way, and I don't have the wording right in my head as far as.
The internal auditor will present a yearly plan for auditing approved by the board.
Yeah, that sounds good. If we could change it to the internal auditor will present the audit plan to be approved by the board.
Yearly.
Yeah,
plan.
annually.
The yearly plan.
I just want other people's discussion on it.
Mr. Macias?
Thank you, Mr. Salinas. Dr. Mackey and I actually had a very good visit with Northeast Independent School District's Internal Audit Department. And one of the questions that was asked was how would we designate duties and responsibilities for the internal auditor. And there is an audit plan that's presented to the board that the board will look through and approve and send the internal auditor in that direction. Of course, we'll receive reports back, and they intimately work with the superintendent. I mean, it's a team of 8, so everyone's communicating. One of the things, though, to note that is if the board felt there was something else that the internal auditor needed to look at or make a priority, that's when we would reconvene and discuss that. But the audit plan is pretty what's going to happen is they'll come to us and give us a risk assessment. They'll say that these are the areas that we think are a higher risk, and then we'll make a determination as to what we feel they need to take a look at. So I can agree with your sentiment of having an audit plan. We would definitely require one to have sort of some direction. Oh, is it? developing and submitting a flexible annual audit plan. Yeah, I mean, it states right there.
That third paragraph in that, under authority.
Let's see. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Dare.
Yeah, I agree with the concept, but I saw it down there under responsibilities. Under authority, what I'm understanding, in any of our policy, that is just who the ultimate authority, the final decision-making. I can agree with the board, comma, by a majority vote, comma, shall direct areas, because someone has to be in policy who has the final authority and approval. So I think we should insert by a majority vote in after that, but
Do we need to
we have
amend
to
that?
have an authority of who has the ultimate decision-making, just like there are certain parts of our policies that says the superintendent, then there are other parts that says the superintendent or his designee. Some of them he can't do a designee. And so in this case of the internal auditor, the board is the final authority, but there is the plan. I think you were thinking maybe that we were just going to make up the areas, but if you go down
Well,
to,
what it sounded to me was that we would tell them, hey, we want you to look at, child nutrition.
yeah, no, if you look down at responsibilities, then that very clearly delineates that the internal auditor is going to come up with a plan, bring it to the board, and they're going to approve or add or subtract or whatever, and then that'll be it for the year.
We may be able to reprioritize their listing, but this, the wording on this one as it reads, the board shall direct areas to be audited. I don't think that's worded right. I understand what you're saying, the authority of the board.
Yeah,
If
and
you
I
said
understand that
something-
the lawyers developed this
I understand, but I'm just for, I think that needs to be looked at again.
Would you like to amend that, sir?
Well, but I'd like to do it with the right wording, I don't just want to amend it, but I'm trying to think of something like the, help my people here.
Well,
How about,
in fact, let me just say this. I think ultimately what Mr. Dare said is we just want to make sure that the majority of the board endorses whatever that audit plan is and directs them. So if we
board-
insert majority board, that should,
Well,
majority vote, that
but
should be
it's
good.
different here. Go ahead, Steve.
okay, how about, the board shall approve the final annual audit plan of the internal auditor by board majority vote.
So that's what we're doing, that's where the authority comes in. It's us giving them the authority to do the annual plan. Or,
We have to, he makes it and we approve it.
And
But we
that's,
should add another sentence in there too, or any other emergency, I don't use the word
I would
emergency.
just ask, gentlemen, that you read the entire policy, because the things that you're saying are under responsibilities. I know, and so the authority is the board. That's what the law says. There's a Texas Education Code that says the board has the authority to hire and have an internal auditor that reports directly to the board. So I'm not willing to take away in the authority line that the board is the final authority. I'm willing to add by a majority vote. No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not willing to do that in the authority line. It makes it too watered down and wavery if it comes down to, like he said, the final. Well, it's not just the final. When they present it, the board by a majority vote is going to say, yeah, we want to look at this. No, we don't. And it may be the beginning, it may be the middle.
Well, let me tell you, in an audit, when they do a presentation, they're not gonna audit everything. That's right, they are not gonna audit everything. And they're gonna, if you think it's just gonna be we have one guy here that's our internal auditor, he's gonna be bringing in so many outside consultants to help him because he doesn't have the expertise in all those. That's where all this money, that's where it's gonna cost more money for one thing. But what I'm saying is,
Well, after visiting over there with Northeast, and I kind of made a few little notes where it says superintendent and internal auditor have a close working relationship. Superintendent and internal auditor collaboratively close on a daily basis, prepare an annual plan for the board each year. That's the superintendent and the auditor prepare the annual audit plan for the board each year. They rank everything. They talk to the associate superintendent for input, provide audit plans in the board packet. Superintendent receives the audit plan for review to board meetings. Board members have never asked internal auditors to do something independently. The fraud and abuse line complaints goes right to the auditor. The auditors, the biggest complaint they had is that I don't like what my boss is doing. It's not much to it. All annual employees, they work 12 months. They go through the superintendent all the time. They come in to fix something. Their budget was $480,000. The salary was $375. 4 people, 3 staff auditors, 1 clerk. Budget supplies 50 to 75. The biggest expense was the TASBO certification. The whole purpose of the plan was not as I got you, but an educational piece for employees. It's hired by the auditor is hired by the board, posted 2 weeks, collect applications, screened by the superintendent and board, and the return on investment dollars. There was not easy to put in dollars, but it was a preventive measurement. Make presentation to administrators and sponsors regarding financial control. That's all I got out of this. That's what I got out of it.
Well, we're looking at this policy, and I just have one sentence that to me isn't right. And I wish our attorneys were here to talk about it, but they're not.
It's kind of contradicting that and then beyond, it's kind of contradicting. The board shall direct areas to be audited. Okay, and develop and submit a flexible annual audit, that's contradictory. I mean, the board shall approve an annual audit plan of the internal audit plan that will be done. That's contradictory.
You're still on the third paragraph?
Where is it?
I mean, they're contradictory if you read it. One says the board shall direct what's the audit. The other says the auditor will develop a flexible annual audit.
For board approval. Yeah, you gotta-
Well, right, but
One's authority, one's responsibility. Right. You have to give the auditor the authority to do the annual audit. And that's what paragraph 3 on 124 does do.
It's in his job description, whole higher.
we're talking about the policy here.
You don't write the policy, we don't have a policy that tells us, to tell Dr. Mackey everything that we expect him to do. But we have a more detailed job description or code that says these are your duties. The policy is general statements saying they're responsible, and we all really already know that the board has no authority on its own, only when properly convened and a majority vote.
But
So even that
this
is,
is doing what you're saying. This is telling them specifically what to audit.
I don't read it that way, so.
The board shall direct areas to be audited. Which one of those words, it's pretty simple.
But I thought we decided that we would determine what would be audited.
And that's the problem with paragraph 1 down here. The auditor submit a flexible audit plan to the board for review and approval that is taken up by the commission this and that. Okay?
But that's after,
Internal auditor.
but that's after the board has audit,
One says the board shall direct, that's telling the auditor what to audit. One says the board will develop an annual plan. These two paragraphs are contradictory.
Mr. Macias.
I move to amend this to include that the board shall, with a majority vote, direct the areas to be audited. Huh? The board shall, with majority board vote, direct areas to be audited.
That's still contradictory. I would say the board authorizes the board shall
approve the annual audit plan of the internal audit.
presented by the auditor. The board has
It
to
already,
do that.
it already says that we shall by approval in that responsibilities paragraph. So basically what I'm adding to this is just that we have majority board approval. So I don't. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and withdraw that motion. Mr. Dare's over here whispering in my ear to withdraw it. So we'll withdraw it, but I'm going to say this, that we did have legal input on this. So, I mean, this, if there's something you're suggesting that might remedy the situation, I say we do that, because we're going to keep going in circles on this one. What's your amendment?
Okay, we have an amendment to the motion and a second. Yeah, Jackie, would you read it? Okay, did you get that, Jackie? Okay, let's vote on the amendment. Yeah, read the amendment. Okay, we got it? Okay. Do you want to do it by? On the third paragraph.
First sentence of the third paragraph.
And then the board and superintendent shall work, that's gonna stay?
Yeah, that's what gives them.
Okay. Okay, okay.
I don't think it's clear what you're removing and what you're adding. Can you clarify that further? But I'm gonna definitely take back my turn, so I need to know what line you're removing and what word you're adding.
We're changing the first sentence of paragraph 3.
You're removing the first sentence and replacing it with what Jackie read.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay, okay. Yes, sir. Okay, let's go ahead and vote on the amendment. I'll do the roll call. Mr. Flores?
Yes.
Mr. Salyer? Yes. Ms. Williams? No. Ms. Adair? No. Mr. Macias?
Yes.
Mr. Salinas? Yes. Amendment carries. Now we vote on the motion. Is that correct with the amendment? Right. Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Oh, roll call? Okay. Mr. Flores?
All those in favor of the motion as amended.
Oh, all those in favor of the motion as amended. Mr. Flores?
Yes.
Mr. Salyer? Yes. Ms. Williams? Ms. Adair? Mr. Macias?
Yes.
Mr. Salinas? Yes. Motion as amended is passed. Is that right, Jackie? Okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Jackie, did you get that for review? Thank you. Okay. B. On discussion and consideration of action items, consider and take possible action regarding adding receptionist positions at all elementary campuses. Do we have a motion? Motion by Ms. Williams. Second by Mr. Macias. Discussion, Ms. Williams.
All right, it's not really, I didn't really intend for this to be all. I asked about all just to get the information on them, but looking back, I just wanted to clarify, I don't know, Dr. Mackey, who can answer, but the campuses that do and don't have the receptionist right now, because from my understanding in the last email about it, there were 3 that have receptionists that are scheduled to be pulled, but only 3 now. And those are the 3 I was looking to amend this just to include, keep those 3 because of the enrollment numbers.
The only ones that I approve, it wasn't board, I just made a recommendation, the only ones that I approve is all schools that have over 800 kids. That's the only ones I approve. If they have 800 kids, then I'll approve that.
Well, and it said to over 800 children or higher levels of poverty rates and higher level of bilinguals were included. So that's where I was just looking, because 800 is a lot, but I wanted to know why we're drawing the line at 800 when 700 is still a lot, 600 still, and those campuses have them. And I'm talking about 3 campuses that I think were given notice, and only 3. So the cost is not anywhere near the 200,000 that was in here. It's a cost for 3 campuses.
I asked the staff that I wanted to do that just for campuses over there because they have an overabundant kids. 700, 750 is a normal for an elementary school. And I just feel like 800 is going above, so that's the only one I recommended. So whatever y'all decide, that's up to the board.
Well, I guess what I don't understand is who's actually physically manning the front of the school on campuses those size, because some of the campuses that have a lot lower enrollment, and I mean like 500 students, that's a very different responsibility to put out there. And I'm curious, just because I've been around to the school, I'm curious of who's actually at the front desk, because I think it's really, really important, especially on an elementary level, to have people at the front of the school for safety reasons. That's the only reason I'm bringing this up. Is
Secretaries and clerks manage the front desk.
clerks on elementary level? And do we have clerks on all elementary campuses?
If they're not busy.
Right, and if they're not busy, and that's my concern, is because I've been told that too before, that the PEMS clerks and the PEMS clerks, of course, when you have the higher enrollment, are a whole lot busier. But also the ISS, when you have an ISS clerk, you cannot say that the ISS clerk is the one that's manning the front, because once you have one student in ISS, they're not necessarily, unless you expect the student to hang out at the front of the school. And I've been on plenty of campuses where there's students that should be ISS that are up at the front. And that's kind of, I thought, what we're trying to avoid by having an ISS clerk. So that's my confusion, and that's where I really feel that we should leave things in place for these campuses that had them, because of how high their enrollment was and still will be. Because you can't say ISS clerks are going to be manning the front. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, but I visit elementaries a lot. I see them, and that's my concern, is that even the fronts of schools too. It's not this case in the middle school. It's not this case in the high school, because we always have people at the front. But when I walk into an elementary, there's plenty of times where it's hard to find staff, and it's I'm just very concerned about that we're leaving fronts of schools with no human being at the front of the desk. Or if we are putting them up there, they're not able to get their job done. And how are we holding them accountable for their job if we're not giving them the support they need? So that's my concern. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I feel like to draw the number at 800, 700 is still a lot of students. 600 is still, and the PEMS clerks, and you see how busy they are, they can't be manning the desks either. But I don't know that.
Mr. Sellier.
Yeah, Bill, I understand your concern, but we're $1.8 million over.
I understand.
And we got to draw the line somewhere, and I want to keep teachers in the classroom. We have lots of money, but $400,000 if we did it for everybody.
Well, no, it's not. It's
I know,
not.
I know,
Yeah,
I know, but
yeah.
that's
Well, can I get
one
a number
teacher
on
equals
those 3?
each 50,000. A teacher's $50,000, and
Because I can amend this, but I'm specifically talking about 3 campuses that have been given receptionists that are now being taken away that still have high enrollment. Can we get the numbers for just those 3? Because
you
it's
can, but
nowhere near 200,000,
we're-
and I
we're-
understand.
We're 1.8 million. I mean, I'd love to put a receptionist in every,
Right.
in anyways and everything, but we
Right.
just don't have the money.
Well, and I understand when you give a reason of not having the money, I understand that, but I'm talking about safety and having somebody at the front of every campus, and that's the reasoning there. But can we get a number on that, Dr. Mackey, for just the three?
On one, can I say something?
Yes.
On one of the budgets sessions that we had,
Mhm.
we were told that the total would be, if I remember correctly, 206,000.
If we
I
added
don't know
them
where
to
the
every.
400,000
Well,
came
no,
from, Mr. Selly.
400 is if every,
Well-
no. 200, I can explain the numbers if you'll give me a second. The 400,000 is if we're paying for a receptionist on every single campus. Dr. Mackey isn't saying take away all the receptionists. There's 3 schools that were being recommended pulled. The 206 comes from the additional cost. If we were to go with what we've got today and add secretaries to all the elementaries that don't have campuses, it would be 206,000. That's not, I mean, I know that's how this reads, but that is not how I intend for this item to be. I did not want every single campus. I'm talking about the higher enrollment campuses. What I'm proposing, because of budget being so tough, is just the 3 that have had receptionists, that have a receptionist position, that utilize their receptionists to be kept as receptionists. So that's why I'm asking, can we get just the number for 3, not the whole rest?
Hold on, ma'am. I think Mr. Selly has the floor. Oh, okay. Ms. Adair.
Thank you. I move to amend the motion to allow the 3 campuses to retain the receptionist position for 1 year with further evaluation on next budget cycle.
Second.
You raised
Well, they
the
don't
same.
seem to want to give me a cost, so I'll let it stand. Yeah. Yeah. I
Dr. Mackey,
second.
we're just not prepared. We don't know what campuses they are right now.
I
And
can tell you what
Ms. Howard is the
campuses.
one that helped to supply those after we did that deal. I mean, I can take a wild guess, but I'm
I
not
can
going to be
give you the
honest.
campuses if you need.
It doesn't,
the campuses,
it's, no,
but
Miss,
really-
Miss,
Because if you're going to do
Williams,
that,
it doesn't-
Copperfield is going to have just as much as
Ms. Williams.
Converse and Salinas. And we're going to add one to them?
no, that's not my motion.
That's not the motion.
My motion is just for the campus currently, and I'm sorry if this sounds unkind, but this is an agenda item, and so I would have expected that y'all would have had the data on the receptionist. I don't know what it is at this point. I don't care what it is. We can vote to either do it or not, and we can move on to the next item. There were 3 we talked about. I'm not going to add any. We don't have any additional money. I'm willing to leave the 3 that were there for the next year and move on.
Mr. Dare, we're going to have to add that to the budget, amend the budget, and add that cost to the budget.
I understand.
Okay.
What campus to vote?
We're
We're going to vote on something, Gina, we don't want the campus.
It's in the
We were
email.
told that
It's in that.
At the
it's in
budget
that.
meeting, we were told it was ELOF, it was Converse, and I don't know who the third one was.
Park Village.
Salinas.
Park
No,
Village.
no, it's Salinas.
Park
It's-
It was Salinas.
No,
Park-
Dr.
Park
Mackey,
Village.
Park Village,
We didn't
Hopkins,
have
and
Park
Pashal.
Village. You kept Park Village.
I kept, yes,
You
And
kept,
still-
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
But-
So the 3 that were removed.
Correct.
Park Village.
Park Village, Hopkins, and Pashal were all included in getting receptionists due to high poverty rates and bilingual parents and the number of bilingual students. We're talking about Elof, Salinas, and Converse, according to the
Hopkins has more than
email.
all of them.
Hopkins has over 800, so they don't even need that exception. If you're allowing 800 and more, they have over 800.
And
So
Bart-
Hopkins will keep one.
Bartman too, have a North Bartman.
Hopkins wasn't mentioned in here, but it's a large, they have, I think, over 800 right now as well, but they also have a very high bilingual and poverty rate, so I would assume that they would have,
We didn't schedule these other districts, other schools, so we would have to.
I didn't move to add anybody.
yeah.
We didn't schedule.
My motion is strictly just for the 3 schools that this school year had a receptionist and were notified at the end of school year that they would not have a job.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Salinas students are going to the new Copperfield, right?
Some of them.
Right? So is Salinas going to have 800 kids next year?
Not gonna have 800.
I don't
They're
know,
getting other
that's not my
students from the other.
Well, I mean, that's
Yeah.
on how I'm going to vote. I mean,
But they
you're
don't have the
saying,
data.
but Salinas and Converse are all going to Copperfield. We're saying the cutoff's 800. No one can tell me what the cutoff is. I can't vote for this year.
I know. I understand.
There's no way.
You don't have all the data, I
This is
understand.
bad, everything.
But at the budget meeting, we did talk about these
I've been asking
receptionists,
for months.
and we were given this
I've been
figure
asking
that
for
was
months.
out of the water, because Ms. Williams requested, and I'm sorry, I didn't turn on my own mic, I'm loud. Ms. Williams requested a receptionist for every campus. I cannot support a receptionist for every campus. I visited Ed Friend's campus, and we manage our front desk very well with the people that we have. So I know we don't need a receptionist. It would be nice, everyone can use another body. However, at Elof and Converse and Salinas, they had a receptionist this year. Apparently, they're not ready to handle not having one. And for the sake of moving on, for this $20,000 salary, I'm just not happy that Ms. Howard did not leave that information since it's an agenda item. So I'm willing to support her to keep the 3 and no additional. Not the new school, nobody else.
Did you push a button again, or was it just not
Again, I'm gonna have to come back and say, obviously, we were given the wrong information, and I'm not happy about that. My understanding was, when it was explained to us, they said, well, it's costing 100 and some odd thousand. By adding so many, it's gonna be up to 208,000. All of a sudden, we've changed the number to 400,000. But let me tell you one thing. I think it's important to have the extra eyes on. I'd like to do it on every campus, but obviously maybe we won't be able to do it this year. I attended a session today, and it was on customer service. It was perfect, because I think the last time I said it's very important that when a parent comes into that campus, that they are received immediately. And let me just read some of them. That they want to make sure that when, they call them customers, and they said whether it's a teacher, whether it's a board member, whether it's a parent, somebody from the community, business person, whoever, it's very important to feel welcome, to be understood as to what you need, to obtain assistance at the moment that you have arrived, to be treated as a valued customer, and to retain dignity. They took a survey when they did this study, and they said, when you went over there to your elementary or to the school, and you were treated like a real customer, 2 things that you remembered. And the 95% of the respondents said, I remember the person and I remember the smile. Customer service is very important. I wish we could have an extra person, not only to receive these people, but also to serve as the extra eyes, especially nowadays with what's going on. And I'm not saying, yeah, we're going to have 2 extra eyes, nothing's going to happen here. That's not what I'm saying. Security, safety of our kids. I'm here for the kids, and I'm here for the safety. And I'm sorry that now I'm being told, no, we only can take the 3 that we're not going to have them. But hopefully in the future, and I'm pretty sure that Dr. Mackey will be looking into that, because I've never had any problem with Dr. Mackey when he hears things from the board. I guarantee you one thing, he's going to go and he's going to look into it. And he can come back to the board and say, you know what, remember when you all discussed this, I think we can do it. There's a way we can do it. So yes, I will be with this amendment, Ms. Adair and Mr. Salyer, for your concern. Thank you very much, sir. And Ms. Williams. But I'm telling you, it's very, very important. So I hope we need to be looking into that. Okay, Mr. Flores.
Thank you. Well, I go to a lot, I've gone to a few elementary schools myself, and I have never not had anybody at the desk there. You know, I mean, you always say you've gone there and sometimes there's not people there or something. I've never encountered that. Dr. Mackey has, you know, personnel allocation, and, you know, he's been working on this, with this for the last 3 or 4 years, and, you know, I don't see any reason to not go with his recommendation. I mean, that's just, you know, that's the confidence that we have to show in our superintendent. Because by this, you're telling me that, no, you know, we want something different. We want it, you know, and I just can't buy it. I'm not voting for it.
Okay, we're gonna vote on the, any more discussion? Oh, Ms. Say there, oh, never mind.
Never mind.
Okay, first, we're gonna vote on the amendment to the motion. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote. At this time, if you're for the amendment, it would be yes. If you're not, it would be a no. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you can vote now. We have 4 yeses and 2 nos. The amendment to the motion carries. Now we're gonna be voting on the motion, on the amended motion. Is that correct? Okay. Go ahead and, Dr. Mackey, put up the vote. Go ahead. Okay, the vote is 4-2. Motion that was amended passes. And I'm pretty sure Dr. Mackey will send us a figure as to how much it's gonna cost.
We're not gonna do that. Oh, yeah, we can give you what we already have. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we can do that.
C, consider and take possible action regarding approval for installation of security cameras and locking equipment for all elementary schools. Page 128. And there is a report there for you, and if you look on page, it's the last page of the report. It does give you the figures. As a matter of fact, they did a great job by detailing every school, what they had to do.
Do you want a motion so we can talk about it?
Oh, we have a motion. Do we have a motion?
I said motion.
Oh, you said motion, I'm sorry. Motion by Ms. Williams, second by Mr. Salinas. Discussion. Ms. Williams.
I put this on here just to really get a little more clarification. The report was awesome to be able to see the breakdown. I'm not sure if the board got to look at all of that, but give the plans. But my concern is just it's a very big cost to be doing all the vestibules, and I wanted to know what's the purpose of the vestibule specifically, why we're doing them, because it's almost $2 million, and at what rate we're doing them. But Dr. Mackey, who can answer questions from, is it Mr. Kirshner? But Mr. Kirshner, that was my first and most important question really is
Yes,
why
we,
the vestibules?
All of the new schools that we've built, we have security vestibules, and it's been part of our design plan. That was before I got in this job. That was part of the design plan. So we thought, why the new ones if you're not going to go back and retrofit the old ones? So we had started this year with $100,000 to see how many we could get. We really only got to Park Village, but we figured we might be able to do 2 to 3 a year, and now that you can see the cost, that's kind of viable, with the exception of a couple of schools that have a very difficult front end. There's going to be more of a major renovation than just coming in and putting glass panels up and directing people into the office. So that's why we were doing them. And when we saw the cost figures and we were asked about, why don't we just do the cameras like we did at Park Village, all the schools, you got that quote. That was a little over $100,000, I can't remember.
Yeah,
It's in there.
Yeah.
It's in there also.
It was
Right,
160.
108, I think.
Yes. And so then the
162.
question was, go back
Is
and
that
find out what vestibules will cost. So that's why you have both of these reports.
Sure. Well, what's the actual, I'm sorry to ask a silly question, but the actual point of a vestibule? That's just making it a double door entry where
No,
you
to
have,
direct everybody into the office that comes
Okay.
into school.
okay. But it doesn't stop people from coming into the school. It's just an added,
It's a barrier.
it's a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sure, you have to go into the front office.
We got the Franz and,
Oh, okay. Well, and that's different though, because that does stop, well, yeah, but,
It stops them there, and then
right. But it's not locked or anything. They can just go right. Okay, well, that's what I was asking. That's the difference. Is so the vestibules, that's the point, is that not only does it funnel you into the office, but you can't get into the office
in that
unless let in?
particular location, that's how it's set up, yes.
Okay.
When
And
we
why-
did the renovations over there, that's the way that
Okay.
one was built.
Well, and that's the reason I asked about the video cameras and the locking is because it seems to be doing what the vestibules could potentially do, like at Ed Franz, but for a whole lot less money. And that's what I'm trying to understand is because some of these are older schools and we're putting, and the one school in particular, was just for the one campus, almost $850,000 for Miller's Point, and they had a lot of concerns on how they could even do the construction and how long it would take. And that's obviously a concern too because we operate most of the year. We have summer months, but that was, what I wanted to know from the board is because if the purpose of a vestibule is to stop people from just entering the school, it forces them to come in through the office. And in some campuses, like Ed Franz, as June has pointed out, campuses like Park Village, Hartman, they're locked. You can't get in. Why would we not look at the idea of doing these cameras where it locks them with a much, much smaller cost, and it's immediate? Because that's my other concern with the vestibules is over the course of how many years are we going to complete this? And while we're doing this, how do we pick which schools get to go first and which schools sit as being vulnerable for more and more years? So that's my question. No, well, that's part of these items. I've been putting them on and putting them on. They'll keep coming back up, but that was part of my question is you have to have someone at the front. It all comes down to safety for me, and I know money is an issue, but this is my way of suggesting let's not spend almost $2 million, and the cost that we had for the cameras for all campuses, for everything, whether they had a vestibule or not, was $162,000, which is a lot less than almost $2 million. So. But that's my main question.
Mr. Salyer.
Well, I'm concerned about this too. But cameras are not a deterrent. Cameras are worthless in deterrent. You have to have a physical barrier. Now, let me throw this out. We're spending $100,000 a year to do these. What's budgeted, Mr. Kirshner? You said about $100,000.
Well, that's what we budgeted last year was
Yeah, okay.
$100,000, and that was our
Okay.
plan. Dr. Mackey said, let's just do $100,000 each year until we get them all done.
How about this? If you take, and I'll do a motion amend if people agree, Crestview, Emhoff, Hartman, Hopkins, Park Village, Pershaw, and Salinas. We can do all those for around $200,000, can't we? No? I'm looking at your numbers here. That's about $200,000.
You said Crestview and Elo.
If you're Crestview, Eloff, Hartman, Hopkins, Park Village, Pershaw, and Salinas, that's right around 200 grand. I don't have my calculator, but it's right at 200 grand. You can do 7 schools for 200 grand. What's on this?
Yeah.
The cost estimates to build what's here.
To do the vestibule and the campus?
No,
Do just the campus?
no, just the vestibule.
Do just the vestibule?
Okay, so if we do 200,000 a year, you can get all the schools in 4 years except Miller's Point. In Miller's Point, there's no way we're going to spend $1 million, $840,000. So, am I right, Mr. Kirshner? Kinda fudging math. Okay, Crestview, Emhoff, Hartman, Hopkins, Park Village, Pershaw, and Salinas. If you add those together, it's right around 200,000. I don't have my calculator with me, right? It's right at 200,000. Huh? No, no, 200,000, we do 200,000.
No, we already have 100,000.
Okay, so we do it for not for next year, do we? Yeah, so 200,000 this year would get 7 campuses. Then the next year you could Wood Lake, next year do Spring Meadows, next year do Olympia. Millers Point would have to be, it's just not cost effective. So in 4 years you could do all of them except for one for 200,000 a year, give or take, right?
How would you determine the order? You're leaving campuses that are vulnerable and more open, so
you
how
gotta
would you
make the
determine?
decisions, Beth. You
Well,
gotta make
that's what I'm
decisions
asking
based
you.
on cost. I mean, I'll never vote for Millers Point. I'm sorry, $840,000. Yes, you're right. I agree
So what are-
100% with you.
right. So what
I
are we
agree.
gonna do for Miller's Point?
Well, we can't afford to do Millers Point. I mean, you have to make hard decisions here. Do you have $850,000 to do that one?
That's a bond thing, exactly.
That's a bond.
Well,
That's a
this whole
bond.
thing is a bond. This
Yeah, it's
whole
all a
thing,
bond.
that's
But
why
what
I'm saying the
I'm
cameras is
trying to
not a
make
bond.
have a solution here where we can get the most we can with what we got, what we can afford. We can afford $200,000 this year to do 7 campuses.
But $200,000 would put cameras with locking doors on every single campus we have immediately in 1 year's time. And I agree with, I mean, I don't know if June agrees completely. I think that these vestibules, all that is absolutely a bond. The cameras is a much smaller cost. It's $150,000.
nothing.
But what's a vestibule? There's
A
still
vet
a
is
locked
deter-
door.
Yeah.
There's still a locked door. Either way, there's a locked door. It may not, but if it buys minutes, if it buys seconds, but June, that's what this is about. It's not, we can't prevent everything, and we know that.
You're right.
But
I'm offering
if you buy
$200,000
time,
to get 7 campuses.
but we're leaving other campuses open, so
You're
I don't
right,
support
but
that.
we're on this board to make hard decisions, and we don't have $1.8 million to do everything.
No, so we do something that
So-
can be cost-effective and effective for all campuses.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
not an end-all, it doesn't solve all our problems, but locking all of our campuses almost immediately with one swoop with $150,000 adds protection. It does not prevent everything from happening, but if it adds seconds, seconds can save lives, and we all know that. From every incident that's happened, even seconds help save
You're
lives.
right, but you
And
need
this
to
is
do
a
it right.
small cost for safety. The vestibule, yeah,
I
but the
made my
vestibules
offer.
is a much bigger thing. That's a bond issue, and you can't just pick and choose. And especially, I see what you're saying with the 200,000. If we do $100,000 a year, this is going to take us 18 years to do. This is not a good plan. But doing $200,000, that's still 4 or 5 years. That's not, I just don't think
You
that's a
gotta
good
live
plan
with
either.
your budget, Beth.
I
You gotta live within your
understand.
budget.
That's why I think that locking campuses is one of the most effective things we can do.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, sir, you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I had talked to Dr. Mackey after I got this report. As a matter of fact, I came and visited with Dr. Mackey and said, Dr. Mackey, what happened from 100,000 to 1.8 million? And then I said, maybe if we authorize the superintendent to prioritize, because we already put aside 100,000. Mr. Salyer is saying, why don't we go ahead and put 200,000? And then, in the schools, I think there's 6 of them. Let Dr. Mackey prioritize which one is gonna be the first one. And as soon as we finish that one, then we go to the second one. Well, we already put 100,000. My suggestion is within 2 years. Mr. Salyer said, let's go ahead and put an extra 100,000, okay? So either do it in 2 years and finish the 6 campuses that Mr. Salyer pointed out, because those are the lowest ones to fix. And maybe let the superintendent prioritize, and then he can get back with the board, say, by the way, we already determined, this year we're gonna do 4, and these are the 4, and then next year will be the other 4. Thank you. Mr. Flores?
Thank you. I went to a session today talking about safety,
Yes, sir.
and they pointed out that at Sandy Hook, they had locked doors, they had cameras. You know, the guy shot through the locked door, principal came out, killed the principal, So that did not do anything to deter. That did nothing. And do you know how many school shootings there's been this year so far? 40.
Right.
There's been 40 throughout the nation. So, the compromise that Steve is offering, I think will work, get it going. I don't think it's gonna be quite 200,000. It'll probably be about like 170,000 maybe. But, I'm just, saying that, you know, you keep throwing this argument out there that's gonna, that's gonna build seconds. But they shot through the lock, they shot through the window, and they killed the people.
Then what's a vestibule? Because I agree with what you're saying, but what's a vestibule gonna do then?
Well, it's gonna at least, it'll buy some seconds, maybe lose a couple.
I mean,
No.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
because that's what and I guess that's exactly
Well-
it. We can't prevent everything, and I'm not gonna
Well,
argue
what's
that.
locking down gonna do then?
Well, it's the same thing that's what I'm arguing, is I'm arguing that locking the doors with a camera is the same thing as a vestibule in the fact that it could buy us seconds. And one is a lot cheaper than the other. I'm not suggesting this, I'm sorry, my mic's not, I'm not suggesting this prevents everything, because we know that it doesn't. But a vestibule, what's a vestibule gonna do? A vestibule is not an armed officer, and we can't afford to put an armed officer on all of our elementaries, because you all know I would love to do that. But in light of that, in lieu of that, we can't do that, so what's next? A vestibule, what's the difference? That's why I was asking, what's the difference? What's a vestibule do? It does buy seconds. I think that it buys seconds. Is it gonna stop someone with a gun who wants to get in our schools? No. But neither is a camera that's gonna, have the door locked either. I'm suggesting that this is a small deterrent, and it's a very small one with a much smaller cost. But I agree with you, I'm not, there's no perfect
I say
solution.
just go to a bond on the whole thing. We do everything with a bond.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the feeling of the board?
The
That
bond,
would, that on the next bond,
the bond for 2000, I'm sorry, mister, the bond was $8 billion in 2010 for security.
It failed.
It was
And
$8
it
million
failed.
to secure our schools in 2010.
What was actually on it, because I'm
Oh,
not
I
familiar.
can't- I can't
Okay,
pull it up
well,
4
I'm just
years
saying.
ago.
rough-
But
yeah. Okay, yeah.
but we had not,
Well, yeah.
we had not had a lot of those incidents. I
Yeah, a
guarantee you
lot
that
more
would
has
have passed.
happened since, right.
But it was $8 million was the cost.
A
of the
lot of-
2010
yeah.
bond
Yeah.
for school security.
But I'm not asking for the details, June. What I was asking is, did it have vestibules on it? Did it have locked doors? That's what I was asking.
We got the old plans.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
asking.
Every school that we had a renovation in there was gonna get a security vestibule as part of that renovation.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So, go ahead, ma'am,
I think this is a bond item,
okay?
and I have to be truthful. If you're gonna ask for this, then I would have saved the money from the receptionist so you could get this. But you can't have all of it. There's no empty bucket of money. And so $100,000 here and $100,000 there. I know the receptionists are at least 20, 25,000. So I've already given away $100,000 tonight for you, Ms. Williams. I will not give you any money on this.
Okay. Would the board like to say, let's go ahead and hold this item for the next bond election? What's the feeling? Dr. Mackey needs to know. I think for the next bond election. Yes, ma'am.
I think either we either vote it up or down, or she pulls it, but I don't think that we as a board should dictate to administration today what's going to happen on the bond. Because by the time we do the bond, we're going to have a bond committee like Mr. Sawyer headed up, and they're going to look at it again. The cost may have increased. I don't think that's part of strategic planning that we sit here and make a motion that this is going to be on the bond. I will agree that this is a bond item, but that's as far as I'm willing to state. I don't want to bind a future board and superintendent to my decision. Mr. Sawyer.
Would 100,000 to fix 7 schools? Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and, you never amended that, right, sir? Okay, so then we're just gonna vote on the motion as stated? Oh, you pulled the motion, okay. You already pulled it, man. Mr. Macias was late on the draw. Go ahead, Mr. Macias.
Yeah, they pulled me. I had actually requested to speak. I just wanted to add to this discussion that safety is important, and we've discussed it as a board. Some of the information obviously is sensitive and has to be in closed session, but clearly this issue is not going to go away. I do concur with the consensus here that this is clearly a bond item, but we do need to address that issue and ensure that we have speedy response times to our elementary school. So that's all I need to say.
So just to clarify, I pulled this, but are we going to stop with the 100,000? Do we have 100,000 set aside for right now, and are we continuing on this path, or what are we doing now? That's, yeah, Mr. Kirshner says that's not a Mr. Kirshner question anymore. He says that's a
Right.
Dr. Mackey question. My question first.
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay, so with the $100,000 that's already, it's not approved yet, but it's in there. If that is approved in this budget for the 2014-2015 school year, which campuses are going to be affected by that $100,000 in? I know, I understand, but I just wasn't sure if they had already prioritized. They have not prioritized. That's what I was asking. Okay. Hey, I figured there's got to be a ranking list, but I guess not yet. Okay, thank you.
Okay, D, consider and take possible action regarding approval Title I ratio, Mr. Macias. Oh, we need a motion.
Motion?
Motion by Mr. Macias, second by Ms. Williams.
What is the
Mr.
motion?
Macias.
What is the motion? I don't know what you're motioning.
Consider and take possible action regarding approval of Title I ratio.
What is it? That's too vague. You gotta make a motion to tell me what you're asking.
Well, I'll go ahead and I put that item on there, and I did have the agenda sort of vague on purpose so that we can have some discussion. But we did have some preliminary discussion at our last meeting regarding this. And so just for the sake of putting something concrete, I'll put a motion on the floor for us to discuss. I motion that we make the Title I ratio 65%. That's it. That's it. So,
Do we need a second on that?
yeah.
Oh, you did. Second by Mr.
Are we gonna have discussion?
Discussion.
Okay.
Mr. Macias.
Thank you. So the reason for that is simply to capture some of the schools that fell off with the new recommendation, which was 70%. At our last meeting, I did ask the question about how many students were served, and we were given the data. But I think in the discussion, too, I was told that if we move the ratio to 65%, we would actually impact kids that would need this funding. And I was a little confused by that, because in my estimation was we essentially would be giving more kids the opportunity to take advantage of title funding by moving that percentage from 70 to 65%. There's just no way that if we would add Converse, and I believe the other school is Crestview, that student population that has an economically disadvantaged student population would benefit from the pool of title money. So that's why that's on the table for us to discuss, and I think I put out what my purpose was.
Okay,
Ms. Tate,
I was going to say.
Go ahead, sir.
And adding that, yes, that was correct. It would be Converse and Crestview added to the list. You have Ed Franz at 63.16. You have Masters at 62.97, and you have Copperfield at 63.37. So you have three schools within that 65, within a 2% right there. So, and how that affects the other campuses, if you add 2 campuses, then there's only one set of pot of money. Then you have to divide those 2 schools with the schools we're in there with the pot of money we have. So it lowers that for all the campuses that have it. It lowers it rate.
And my understanding was last year, I guess I'll ask this question, Dr. Mackey, our pot of money was what in terms of title funding? What was our pot of money last year?
Okay, what was our title? What was it last year, Miss? $3 million. Okay, and what? And this year, our pot of money this year is, huh? $4,050,000, and then you take 30% off, so it's $2,800,000, around $2,800,000 something thousand dollars. For me? For the campuses, yes.
So did you take 30% from the 3 million last year?
Yes, that's.
That is, so we're talking about a $200,000 differential then? So we did lose some title money then from last year, from 3 million to 800,000? Okay, so in this year, and again, yeah, it might be better. And just for clarification, as you're coming up here, my question is, last year we had $3 million. This year, you mentioned we have $4 million. Dr. Mackey mentioned that 30% of that needs to go to district initiatives for Title I, which leaves us really a pot of $2.8 million.
That's correct.
Okay, so last year when we had $3 million, did we take 30% from that $3 million?
Yes, sir.
So when we take that 30% from the $3 million, what did we have, roughly?
When we take away the 30%.
From the 3 million,
2.1.
so 2.1 million. So this year we have 2.8 million, which we're getting $700,000 more. And then I think with the percentile moving up to 70%, we're actually decreasing the amount of schools that were being eligible for title funding. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So my rationale would be then if we actually put the percentage back to 65, we would actually be increasing the schools that would qualify for title funding. Again, the rationale would be thus that we'd have more students that would be impacted with this title money. And since we have $700,000 more, it looks like there's more money to go around. That's how I'm looking at it, and why I think that 5% shift in percentage would be more beneficial for our kids in this district.
May I respond?
Yes, ma'am, please.
One of the other requirements of the funding is that any campus that is at 75% or higher receives a higher per pupil allocation, so they're going to get more money. So once we do that, since as you know that our percentage has increased this year, we're going to have to put more money on the poorer campuses. So that diminishes the amount of money that's going to go to any campus that is at 65, 63. We have made arrangements to provide funding to those campuses through State Comp Ed. So they're still going to be provided with funding for tutoring, for pull-out tutors, those kinds of things that they're going to need as well.
So how many schools last year, and pardon me, I'm getting to that part of that page on my agenda, but how many schools were at that 75 percentile last year? And compared to this year? I mean, that's going to tell me what that difference looks like.
Okay. Last year, let's see.
And last year, I'm meaning
Converse-
this academic year, right? This academic year?
Yes, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Converse was at 75, Elof at 76, Metzger at 76, Woodlake Elementary at 77, Millers Point at 80, Spring Meadows at 82, Hartman at 84, Kirby at 87, Pashal at 90, Hopkins at 90, Candlewood at 92, and Park Village at 96.
We had 10 schools, and I'm talking about elementary schools. I'm not looking at the middle schools right now or even the high
Okay.
schools. So we had 10 elementary schools last year qualify for Title I. Am I reading that correctly as I count that?
Well, you asked me how many were at 75.
75, yeah, 10.
But you had middle schools on Title I.
Okay,
So you have to count.
all right. I'm wondering if any of those would qualify under the new numbers at 65%. So let me look. No, I think in middle schools, just to wrap that argument up, Judson Middle School is at 62% based on your projections for next year.
Correct.
And Metzger Middle School is at 76%. It looks like it's the only one that's at that 75%, but Woodlake is at 74.44%. So are we treating Woodlake the same way we're treating Metzger? Plus, since we have that plus minus going on? Would they be an automatic school, I guess, at 74.44?
They would receive title funding, but in terms of would their funding be exactly equal, no, sir.
Okay.
The higher the poverty, the greater the per pupil allocation. And Kirby Middle School is at 87.9, so they would get even more.
Yeah, and then when you said any school at 75% is just mandated to get a larger pool of those title monies.
Yes, sir. So it's not like we can equally divide across all those campuses. You can't divide 18 campuses into the 2.8 million because it doesn't work that way.
Okay, and I can appreciate that. So now looking at the elementary schools here particularly, it looks like we'll have Spring Meadows qualify, Candlewood qualify, Hartman, so that's 3. So we have 3 elementary schools that would qualify for title funding. I mean,
No, there are more than 3.
there are more, so
Who would not qualify?
so okay, there it is, right, the 20. I'm looking at the.
Who would not qualify, Ms. Ross?
At the elementary level, it would be Converse, Crestview, Masters Elementary, Franz, and Coronado Village.
Converse, Crestview, Franz, Coronado, and who's the other one?
Masters?
And I'm looking at page 159 for my colleagues here. Page 159 with a projected percentage of students coded as economically disadvantaged. And that's where I see those schools, Masters, Crestview, Coronado, Ed France, and Converse, in a yellow highlight. I'm assuming that means that last year they were receiving title funding. This year they're not on the list to receive title funding.
Yes, sir.
So that's 5 schools. Based on what I looked a second ago, we had 10 schools being funded last year. As I look at Park Village being at 96%, Candlewood, as I look at the ascending order of schools that would have qualified, and I think that this year, or this past year, was the percentage, what was it again,
62.
62%. So we had a greater pool of schools qualify for that $3 million.
Yes, sir.
And I guess that's the hard part I'm having. So now we have a little bit more money, but we're cutting 5 schools out. I mean, to me, that's just alarming. So I know we talk about the comp ed money, but I'm wondering if we can still support all schools with that comp ed bucket, but we qualify more schools to be under that title umbrella. I want to make sure our kids get what they need.
Right.
And so I would, again, my motion is for 65%. I know it does not grab Coronado Village or even Masters right now, but it lessens the blow. To go from 10 elementary schools last year that qualified based on our percentage to only 5, I mean, that's a big difference. So,
But this allows us to provide the funding to the high-need campuses, which is required by statute.
I understand
We want
that.
to make sure that those kids that have the highest poverty are getting the most
And I
services.
guess you can help answer this question for me. Why we were so low this last year at 62%, and then why we decided to go to 70 this time?
It has a lot to do with the way Mr. Jones, the great job he did with getting those forms back, because it's based on the free and reduced lunch forms. We've gone to online applications now as well as hard copies. And some campuses were providing incentives to the kids, bring yours back, and, you know, you'll do this, we'll do that for you. So he did an excellent job of getting those flyers back, those forms back.
I guess
Because when I look at the numbers, I don't see a huge influx of students. So it has to be,
If the board goes to 65%, that means that we do the 2%, that means that if it's 65, you go down to 63,
yes, sir.
and then we collect that. So if you do that, that means that Copperfield is gonna be added on, Spring,
Ed France
Copperfield,
and Ed France.
And Ed France. And Masters is gonna miss about 3/10 of a point. Do that.
Well, I guess I still, and I know you probably may have said this already, but I just cannot wrap my hands around this, how we had a lower percentage, obviously a lower pot of dollars. This year we have 700,000 more, but we're excluding now 5 schools. It's just not making sense for me.
Can I add a little bit?
Sure.
Let me kind of put this a little into perspective, or try to. What's going to happen with these funds, the additional money you're talking about, because I asked the same question, is that those schools that are the higher need schools, the ones that are 75% and above, the plan is to hire additional staff for those schools out of Title I funds to give those kids more support. They're the schools that are, unfortunately, what we call the red schools, that are not doing well, and so the hope is to get 1 or 2 additional staff members for each one of those campuses that are going to have pullouts for the kids or smaller classes in some way, some method to help them be more successful. And that's going to take care of those schools, and that's how we're going to utilize those additional Title I funds that you're talking about, that the $700,000, and also what was freed up from the other campuses. Our goal as well is to ensure that the schools that are no longer going to be supported with Title I funds, to ensure that those schools do not lose personnel, to make sure that if they had a special reading teacher for pulling out their kids this year that was being funded out of Title I, or an RTI person, anybody that was helping that school, our goal is to keep all those staff intact. We're not going to take any staff away from those schools. We're going to change the job descriptions a little bit, and you will see them, to be able to fund those positions with compensatory education funds, and also provide those schools that were receiving title money that will not be receiving title money additional compensatory education funds to make sure that they could still do their after-school tutorials for their kids, to pay for the transportation to get those kids home after the tutorials, to make sure that they don't lose anything that they were already receiving at those campuses. But just to ensure that the additional money we received is going to the highest need campuses, the title campuses, with Title I funds, to make sure we provide additional support for those kids that are at our highest need campuses. That's kind of what the goal is.
Ms. Adair?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did do a little bit of research on this. Actually, I spent most of my time on this. I understand what Mr. Macias is saying, but I don't think Mr. Macias totally understands how this works, and I don't know if I'm able to properly explain it either. But my personal opinion, as long as the campuses are not losing their FTEs or their people, then we should allow it to be funded from Comp Ed. Title I is very complicated, and people go to jail over Title I, right, Ms. Roddy?
Yes.
I know some campuses or ISDs that have had some trouble based on their. One of the first things I talked about when I got on this board was we didn't have enough free and reduced lunch applications. That was one of the first areas I started talking about, is we've got to get those kids to fill out those papers. So because Mr. Jones did such a good job, that's why we got more money. But when we got more money, that also raised our free and reduced lunch levels, which is what the district has been using as the criteria. Okay, help me.
Portion.
Okay.
We got more money because some of the high-risk schools, economically disadvantaged, went up even higher, and the other ones went lower. That's where it's at.
Right, so, if we, now, you know I love Ed France. But I have to say that the community surrounding Ed France is not as high poverty as the Park Village area or even the Kirby area. And equal is not equity. So I'm unwilling to equally give everybody a piece of the pie. We're going to have to give some more money to some of those schools. And y'all know one of my other things is a social worker. Those campuses use some of their money to pay for a social worker. If we take more money away from them, it may not be enough left there for them to hire in those positions. So as long as the administration is assuring the board on tape that the campuses will not lose personnel. Did I get one of those papers? Okay, I didn't get one yet. if we're not gonna, no, I don't have any papers over here. I've been neglected today. But regardless, they've given me they've said it in the budget meeting, and it reads on our agenda on page 156. On 156, in the executive summary, administration stated they would provide those positions from comp ed funds. Then I'm good with that, and I'm good with leaving the numbers to match the free and reduced lunch. Yes, sir.
Ms. Williams?
That's actually exactly what I was just gonna speak about. But I have the list, and I don't know why the rest of it, this is what I asked for at the last board meeting, but did the rest of the board not get these? Okay, then they should have, okay. So, okay, go to your Monday stack. Okay, well, then like June said, on the record, at our recorded meeting now, this is what I was questioning, because I see what Jose is saying, and looking at the numbers, I see where he's saying we could service more by lowering the percentage, and I'd be inclined to support that if we weren't being told that these positions are going to be supported by comp ed money for next year. So that's what I wanted to ask is, Dr. Mackey, off this list, it looks like 53 employees as the list is counted. All these 53 employees are being kept on comp ed money? Like these specific 53 are being kept on comp ed money?
May I respond? Yes, ma'am. Those are all being retained. The only changes are on this chart that you received tonight. These are the 6 people that were this past school year paid out of Title I funds. And as you can see, the positions are being moved over to state comp ed. So
I'm
they're
not sure
not.
that. I'm
This
about
was
to get
passed
that.
out tonight.
Okay. You mean right now?
Okay. Okay. So there are only 6 positions that we're talking about that are impacted, that are moving to state comp ed funding.
If I could ask a question while you're looking at that, Ms. Robin,
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Mackey, if the board changes this number tonight, what will the district have to do?
May I answer?
Can he
Um, We are going to have to pull back job postings to fill those positions that Mr. Elizondo was speaking about. We were trying to get additional help to those high-poverty campuses. We have to redo all of the campus allocations that we have already done. The problem, the campuses have already completed their campus improvement plans based on their needs assessment, and the application is due to TEA next week.
And to my board members, I did verify what my information from TEA, and there's a Mr. Green that does Title I there, so I did not rely just on, actually, I didn't speak to you, Ms. Wright, but what you said matched what I was told, so thank you.
Ms. Williams?
I still had a question on this. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand because we just got this one. So this big list of 53 employees, the reason that not all of them are being moved to comp ed money is because a lot of them are still being kept under Title I money because they're on Title I campuses. But there are still some that I see on this list that even instructional aides are being kept. What about the instructional aid? Because there's some that are on these campuses that were under Title I money that are not on this list, that are not on Title I campuses anymore next year.
Correct, because the request that came to my office was, give me a list of everyone who was paid off of Title I 2013-14.
Right, but
That
my
was the
understanding
request.
was that those campuses, the ones that we're talking about that are losing, which looks like Coronado, Ed Franz, Crestview, Masters, Converse, and Judson Middle School, these campuses still have other staff that worked on those campuses that were paid under Title I. So we're not keeping those people under comp ed money?
This list is the list of personnel paid from Title I that's moving over.
And that's it?
The only
So
thing
that's
that's
not-
coming off,
Okay, well, I thought we were keeping all of people that were on those campuses, so we were retaining equal services, because that's what we were told.
We
So,
are.
but
We
then
are.
what about the aides? What about?
aides were, those positions were eliminated at the end of the school year across the board, regardless of funding.
I don't
instructional
think I
aides.
understood it to be that way, so that,
We were told even last year, because all the research says that teachers provide better support than
Okay.
aides, so we've been taking those out, and
Okay.
even private schools. That has nothing to do with the change in funding.
Okay.
recall, Ms. Robinson saying that.
I remember that part. I just didn't know when. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yep. Okay. 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 Or comp ed. Okay. Right. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I need to get clarification. We were just told that nobody's gonna lose anybody because they're gonna be paid through comp ed funding. If I remember correctly, 2-3 weeks ago, we were said only for 1 year. No, comp ed,
All soft funds are 1 year.
okay, but we get them every year. Oh,
Yes, sir.
okay. I just want to make sure that I understood. We get it next year, no problem.
Yes, sir.
One more year, okay,
Yes, sir.
no
Well,
problem.
Mr. Salinas, though, I don't want misunderstanding with what I'm saying. Every year, the decision is made what we're going to do. So even though we'll get Title I money, the employee's contract, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Black, reads when they're on soft money that they are aware that at the end of the year, unless there's future funding, they're not guaranteed employment.
Okay, Mr. Macias?
Yeah, I'd like to pull the item. I just wanted to have some really good discussion about it. I'm satisfied with the response. Yeah, we sure did. So I pull. I think, who seconded?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Item E, consider and take possible action regarding approval of personnel report and updates, including new hire, resignation, administrative appointment. Motion by Mr. Sadler, second by Ms. Adair.
Thank you, Ms. Roddy.
Mr. Salinas,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to go into closed session for this particular item.
Pursuant to Texas Code Section 551.074, discussing personnel, we are going to close session at 8:43. We are returning from closed session. No vote was taken while in closed session. We are returning at 8:50. Okay. If we have a motion, yes. And we had a second. Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed likewise. Motion carries. Discussion item report. Dr. Maxey, 5 minutes. No. Construction update.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
Copperfield Elementary School is coming along good. Went out there yesterday. They're laying tile, finishing up tile, getting ready to start putting carpet in there. The superintendent said it's very scary that thing is going to be done a lot earlier than we thought it was, because they have really moved. The air condition is supposed to be on this in the week.
Started pumping yesterday.
Started pumping yesterday, the air condition in it, and they are blowing and going, and everything is going good out there at Copperfield. Evans Road moving along on that right there. So that project is going good. And the sidewalk at Metzger,
Yes, sir.
where we at on that?
I got I sent a deal in.
Yeah, you sent it to
Can you
me.
send us an email?
Yes, you got an email on that?
Right.
Mr. Bloom or something?
It's supposed to start next month.
Next month.
Yes, right.
Okay.
We got that.
Okay, that's it.
Yes, go. At Evans Road and Nacogdoches.
They're doing the grading,
Okay.
and they're doing called earthquake.
I'll be super
civil-
specific.
Civil
Super-
engineer.
Super specific to answer my question. We were supposed to open not this August, next August for the high
No,
school
ma'am.
according to the bond. So now when are we?
2016.
Okay, that's
Not
what
next
I'm,
August, 2016.
well, that's what I'm asking.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
No, I know it takes 2 years, but that's what I thought we had talked about opening 2015.
Oh, no.
But now, okay, I'm making sure that there's no way that that's gonna happen now. Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Yours is good, but not that good.
Yes,
I know,
yes.
I
Well, we
know.
got delayed a whole lot. We
Yes.
should've.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Adair.
Dr. Mackey, have you noticed that where the high school is, that business right across the street went out of business, that Rose Emporium? Yeah,
You're
so,
talking about, well, that's the garden bill.
yeah, well, they were,
Rose Emporium was just a section of that garden bill.
right, so can you check, see maybe what's going on there? Well, I got a call, well, anyway, the Botanical Center was saying today.
Across the creek and up the hill.
You know, but right where our gate was, that business right there, they said they were going out of business. It's just, I just wanted to know if we could kind of keep an eye out, make sure they're not getting ready to build an apartment building.
Oh, no, they can't.
And,
Too much
Mr.
caliche.
They can't build anything there.
Does it what?
The creek is there, Simple Creek's.
On the other side?
We should buy it just in case.
You gotta cross the creek to get the garden bill.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Would you remind Mr. Gonzalez on our CHASB website, they have the new code of conduct, updated revision with the changes in the laws? And so we're gonna bring that to the board? Okay.
Yeah, because they're taking a survey. I was concerned about, can we talk about that? No. No, I'm sorry. We'll talk about it next time, about the book bags. Okay. Update on board advisory committees. Anybody? Okay. Mr. Sellier? No? Nothing, sir? Okay. Update on board training, conference events, and consider future agenda item request by board members. Update on board training, well, we're attending the SLI, some of us. Some of them will go to Fort Worth. And I believe that's it, right? We attended graduations. Yes, sir. A what? We're on, update on board events, sir.
Yeah,
Oh,
it says
never mind.
future and future agenda.
Yes.
I just wanted to just put on, as a potential future item, that follow up on the bus incident, the tragedy that we had. I still don't have a final report on that, and so I may want to put that on the agenda to discuss. So if you could
That
follow
would
up.
be superintendent's update. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
That
I
would
know,
be on
but
the
just,
superintendent's
I
update.
don't want
city?
months to go by and we just don't, so.
It's in
We
the,
gotta wait till the report comes in.
but it's in the city's hands right now,
Well, that's
correct?
fine,
Okay.
as long as
I'm
we get a
asking,
report.
yeah.
I just want to put on record, I haven't forgotten about it, and I want to kind of address safety issues.
Are you saying that I forget about it because I'm a senior citizen? Calendar, please. Again, on the 23rd Monday, we have a public hearing starting at 6:30. Right after that, we'll have a budget workshop, another budget workshop. Then on the 25th, we will, full public, I think we might be attending that one, right? Coalition, you and me say that? Okay. Okay, that's gonna be at the Northside Activity Center. And we'll have, hopefully, a budget adoption. And SLI in Fort Worth, Naleo in, I don't know, where's Naleo? San Diego, okay. Anything, Jackie, did I forget anything? Did I forget anything? This meeting is adjourned, good night. What is